So when I work with students, we always begin just with movement and with training, and I don't bring nutrition up at the beginning, just so that person can experience the training with whatever their current fuel intake is, right? Just so they can have an understanding of, this is what I'm eating, this is how I train, this is how I feel after. And invariably, this will lead us to having a discussion about nutrition once they've had the real world experience of, oh my God, how do I recover? How can I improve and start to work on my goals and tasks outside of the gym? So I'm starting to think of training as the stimulus. It's like it's you ordering the thing off Amazon, but the recovery, right, is where that package actually gets delivered to your house. So first things first, people just got to get used to ordering, right? Doing a stimulus, creating a stimulus. But we want to actually get the package, right? You don't want to just train just to get tired, right? The whole point is I'm trying to invest this effort, right, in future returns. So what this invariably leads to is finding out, okay, what are you currently doing? And 99.99999% of the time, the problem is the same problem, so I'm just going to say it, is that people don't eat enough protein, okay? Protein, you could see, is the most controversial, vilified macronutrient, okay? Connected to animals, ethics around eating animals, etc. Lots of different opinions about protein. So invariably what it leads to is people not eating much protein and then eating a lot of fats and carbohydrates and calories. So what I like to first break down for people is starting to draw a line between these three macronutrients of protein and fats and carbs. Protein, you treat as building blocks. Fats and carbs, you treat as fuel. Okay? People I recommend learning from, for one, is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who is a doctor, and her specialty is on protein metabolism. And this is exactly what she found, is men and women are highly under-eating protein, so we don't have the amino acids to support skeletal muscle, to support immune system function, detoxification, etc. So starting to change how you view muscle as not just this aesthetic thing, but it's actually an organ. It's an organ of longevity. It's an organ that stores nutrients, right? It's going to store our lipids. It's going to store our glucose. So the more muscle we have, right, the better ability we have to start to metabolize these nutrients, okay? And you can start to think of muscle as this living tissue, right, which is going to increase our metabolism, right, and it's going to help keep a lower body fat, a lower BMI. So protein, big missing piece unanimously with my clients. So that's the first thing, just to start understanding. Am I eating enough? What am I currently eating? So invariably we end up at this ability of needing to track somehow. What do we track? Doesn't matter, but we have to pick something. Calories, people obviously have heard of calories. Other people decide to play a quality game and just remove certain food groups, right, or remove certain levels of acceptable foods, right? Maybe, for example, Charles Poliquin, he gave the easy to kind of remember motto as, if it flies, swims, runs, or grows out of the ground, you can eat it, right? If a caveman had access to it, you can eat it. So the longer the food has been around, probably the more safe it is, and it's been something that humans have consumed for the longest and is proven through history to be a good choice. So the simplest place to start for most people, if you want to go just with making better quality decisions, is choosing whole foods, right? Making those choices. If we were just to use protein then, right, it's starting to find which are protein sources that work for you. And this is where things get edgy and where you have to start learning, because a lot of people think that they're really smart about nutrition and they run around saying things, and then it's like, okay, this is going to be big. So I'm just going to give you some different doctors, different research points of entry of people who I really like and I think can help broaden your horizons, because the second part of this discussion after protein, right, is micronutrients. So macronutrients, we could think of protein, fats, and carbs is where most people operate. They're either counting their calories, right, or if they're not doing calories, they're doing some sort of religious diet. I'm just going to call it religious. So whether it's vegan, keto, paleo, you name it, zone diet, Mediterranean, right? You pick a diet that's more often than not excluding a certain food group, right? Or has certain things that make it that diet. None of those are inherently looking at micronutrients. It's what I call a shotgun approach. This is our hypothesis. This is what we think will work best for you. Here you go, try it out. For me, the big BS detector has been micronutrients, blood work, and actually finding out, do you have the nutrients you think you do? Are you actually healthy, right? How are your B vitamins? How are your hormones, right? How is your HA1AC or whatever? How is your blood glucose? All of these things can be measured. So getting blood work done is what I call the sniper approach now. So now you can start to see what are the micronutrients, what are the minerals or vitamins, etc. that I'm deficient in. Now I can look at foods that are high in those nutrients. I can look at supplements, right, to fill in those nutrients. But now I have a very specific target and I know what I need. So this is how I approach it with people. We have a shotgun approach and we have a sniper approach. For those who want the sniper approach, great. We just start measuring with better tools. When we have better tools, now you just have the data, and it's very easy. I don't have to tell you to eat oysters. It's like, you're highly deficient in zinc. Get the zinc however you want. If you want to eat oysters, you want to take a zinc supplement, etc., now you know. So the idea with the shotgun approach and what these diets are trying to do, paleo, keto, carnivore, etc., is make you eat higher quality foods, which are going to be higher in these micronutrients, lower in calories, so lower total macronutrients, but higher micronutrients, which means you will be healthier and less fat, right? How can I put on muscle mass, which is going to improve all of my biomarkers, right? A good book, Biomarkers. Tufts University looked at a study of what are the biomarkers of longevity, of anti-aging. And the top two biomarkers they put on there, right, are muscle mass and muscle strength, with the idea of sarcopenia, right, and dynopenia, the loss of muscle and the loss of strength, will have a cascading effect on everything, right? Blood pressure, glucose, etc. are all going to be negatively impacted. So starting to see muscle is not just architecture, but an endocrine organ itself. So micronutrients in animal proteins, which will be explained later from different sources, are chock-a-block, essentially. There's a lot of nutrients in animal foods that humans need to thrive. So usually when I work with different people, depending on your diet, if you're a vegetarian, if you're a vegan, it's totally fine with me. Here are food choices that have the amino acids. These are the nutrients that are potentially missing from this diet. Here's where you can get it and supplement it in. So starting to kind of combine these. What are you willing to test? How specific do you want to be, right? Or how more general do you want to approach it? If you're going to do the more general approach, people I recommend listening to, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, finding out about mTOR, how do I trigger protein synthesis, right? And it comes back to this having enough leucine, which is one of these amino acids, which is found in animal foods, and it's not usually found, at least not in high enough qualities, in plant proteins. So having a bolus enough dose of that, around 30 to 40 grams, 30 to 50 sometimes if you're an older individual, right, is going to be able to trigger this protein synthesis, which is going to help maintain your muscle mass as you age, which is not just about aesthetics and bodybuilding. It's just living a long, happy, healthy life. So, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon is one. Dr. Paul Saladino, Carnivore MD. I've known Paul for a very long time, since far before he was carnivore, and at this point he is more animal-based. He is not carnivore. He includes a lot of carbohydrates, dairy, organs, etc. But what I like is Paul has helped me for a long time with blood work and seeing no matter what your diet is, these micronutrients are what we found to be important, and what we need to figure out is how can I get those micronutrients in. This would be a longer discussion talking about anti-nutrients, right? And that's more of Paul's angle, is what if we eat things that actually prevent us from absorbing nutrients? So it's negative nutrients, not even positive. Not so great. So, total side tangent, but Dr. Paul Saladino, Carnivore MD, and Dr. Gabrielle Lyon both have great information on this. But a general easy rule of thumb, practically, just to take away from, is moving towards 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 120 pounds, aiming to get 120 grams a day. If you weigh 200 pounds, 200 pounds a day. Where this would change slightly is, let's say you're 300 pounds and you would ideal body weight is 200. Eat your ideal body weight in protein, not your actual body weight in that sense. That's the easiest first takeaway that I start with people before you do anything else. What you'll find, we're addicted to fats and carbs, right? We want things that are delicious. As Paul's pointed out, there's only really one place in nature where fats and carbs are found together in this high quantity, and that's breast milk. Okay, so big companies that make products understand our biology, and they're very good at making things that are delicious, that light up our brains. So protein is going to start to give you the amino acids you need to build dopamine, to build acetylcholine, to have a well-functioning brain without getting pulled into kind of an addiction of just eating super hyper-palatable foods and eating a lot higher caloric density, so more macronutrient density, but with less micronutrients in it, which is why we're hungry. So this is another concept you can look into called the protein leverage hypothesis, but it's the idea that what signals satiety is actually micronutrients, your body realizing you have enough micronutrients, not calories. This is why you're not going to overeat salmon, right? You could eat 12 ounces of salmon and you're going to be full. Versus pizza, you could eat a whole pizza and you could have ice cream, right? And you can keep going and going and going. Because that hyperpalatability, you're not getting those micronutrients, so your body's still like, let's go. Where is it? Keep eating until we get it all. So, A, you get the nutrients you need. B, you eat less food because now you're full. C, protein has the highest thermic effect of food, so it actually, right, it's going to take energy to digest it. So about 30% of the calories that you're consuming in the protein is just going to be used to burn it up. Another benefit there. And then what you'll start to find is how much more full you are and how much you were just filling up on things that were entertaining your mouth that weren't necessarily helping you fill up and feel full and satiated. So that's the biggest first thing. From there, carbohydrates and fats, when, where, what specific sources. I think that's a whole other conversation we can get into. But the biggest first thing comes back around protein, because if protein's off, right, you're not going to have the building blocks for detoxification, for your immune system. We're not going to get this anabolic signaling happening to keep our muscle tissue, right? And it's just going to be a general downward cascade from there. So that's my thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions. Obviously, diet can be a tricky subject for people, but I'm open and I would love to hear anything you have to say on the matter. Yep. Thanks for listening. In summation, protein, probably the most important starting place for people, aiming to get around a gram per pound per day of your ideal body weight. And people to look into, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, Dr. Paul Saladino. And with that, enjoy the rest of your day. Tally ho!